All right there, guys. How you doing? I thought I'd check in and say hello before our big, exciting tentpole stream tomorrow. Yes, the US election. I know you've all been looking forward to it, and I found myself finally, belatedly, but nonetheless, it's happened. Switching on. I've been reading the odd article here and there. I've been listening to the odd podcast here and there, but I'm starting to feel it, guys, and it's just as well because it's tomorrow. I'm getting that election fever. I'm getting that. Ooh, what way is it going to go? This is going to be interesting. I look at the polls, I listen to the pundits, I do all of that stuff, and genuinely, and I've said this a few times, I don't know how it's going to go, and that is also the verdict that all these pundits seem to have as well. But by and large, they'll go, "Oh, it's really close." If you look at a lot of the polling for swing states and all the rest of it, it's all within the margin of error. A hell of a lot of it's within the margin of error. It could go one way, it could go the other. Historically, pollsters, I think, had underestimated Trump support. They had a more difficult time reaching Trump voters to respond to surveys. But obviously, that's an issue that they've been aware of, and they've taken steps to try and sort out over the last 8 years, the last 4 years, etc. So I know that at least one or more pollsters are altering it to try and weight more heavily on people who said that they voted for Trump at the last election, and that might be the way to filter through to their polling to get that balance, to have the right amount of Trump supporters there. I don't know. Like with all these polling exercises for elections, it's only after the facts that we get to look back on it and go, oh yeah, well, of course this is what ended up happening. No wonder they got it wrong, because this is what ended up happening, with our advantage of knowing the actual outcome. Heath Starmer says Alan Lichtman already called it for Harris in September. I'll add as well, given that we're talking about exciting upcoming elections, we should give a quick mention to the Tory leadership contest. Yes, you remember that? The thing that went on for 4 bloody months or so. We finally have our winner, and it was Kemi Badenoch. She beat Robert Jenrick in the final 2 at the members' vote. I think she got 56% of the votes, which I read is apparently the closest it's been between 2 candidates since they opened it up to membership voting like 4 leadership elections ago or so. I'd felt that we'd probably had a closer one than that, but apparently not. Maybe I had it in my mind that Truss and Sunak was actually quite close to the end, but maybe it was just a little bit further apart than this one. So Kemi Badenoch, funnily enough, I remember back in the Liz Truss leadership election, Kemi Badenoch was the one that I had my eye on, because I could see that there was lots of interesting noises coming from like Tory members and all that sort of stuff about, oh yeah, Kemi seemed to be their person. But of course, for one thing, at the very least, you don't get to have the membership decided on it until it's the final 2. The rest is all, MPs whittling it down, and what the MPs think and what support individual MPs have versus all the rest of it is quite different from membership attitude. But once we got to Badenoch versus Jenrick, I felt pretty secure in saying, yeah, I think it's going to be Badenoch, because my instincts have just always been, yeah, it seems like the Tory membership favour Badenoch more. It seems like, I don't know, she seems more genuinely of that right-wing ilk that they're going for. Heath Starmer also adds, and Republican organisations are flooding the polling aggregates with biased polling. Oh, I don't know anything about that, I'm afraid. Well done, Swish. You called it for Badenoch. Thank you. No clue why your panel thought she wouldn't win, as she is in touch with the base of the party. Yeah, was I the only one who said Badenoch out of the panel? Did everyone else say Jenrick? Ooh, it's gloating time, boys and girls. Yeah, but those were my reasons for thinking it. In a way, it was like Jenrick. I knew of him, I had heard of him, but prior to the leadership contest, he wasn't exactly on my radar. He was, government minister man to be, interchangeable Caucasian male. I didn't really have any strong feelings about Jenrick one way or the other, which is probably bad if you're trying to catch people's attention. Kemi Badenoch, on the other hand, you've got a feel for Badenoch. You know that she's got a little bit of a firebrand, not afraid to say things that are going to ruffle some feathers. Occasionally says things that aren't particularly well thought through and probably shouldn't have said. She's one of them types, She's a straight shooter, as some would say. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic, her as leader of the opposition now. Now, here's the thing. a lot of Labour getting into power at the election was by and large to do with the failure of the Tories. Now, Keir Starmer did a fair job at capitalising on that, and they, tailored their message to the country to kind of, not veer too far one way or the other, so right down through the middle, not scare off the potential Tory Labour voters with the idea of, we're going to come in and do a Jeremy Corbyn style agenda or whatever. They did lose out a bit of their traditional support amongst the young and the left, I think, relative to other elections. But they by and large, they held on to a decent chunk of it. But it was an awful lot of Tory failure that led to Labour getting in. It wasn't a massive surge of support for Labour across the country of everyone going, "Oh yes, the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, that's what we need. That's what's getting us excited for the future." Some of that, for sure. People like myself, plenty of you out there, have just been desperate for the Tories to be out for ages, and you go, "Well, all right, then we'll have this Labour Party, sure." But countrywide, I think a lot of it was to do with Tory failings. I got sidetracked there. Where was I going with that? Right. Okay. What I was going to say is that Kemi Badenoch has the ultimate task of any opposition leader now, which is to try and get attention, which is to try and have a little piece of the narrative that you can speak your thoughts on. Get people actually listening to what you're saying. Be relevant in the discussion. And Keir Starmer had a tricky time with that because I think that obviously from near the beginning of his leadership, COVID took up a good year or two chunk of time, really, and there wasn't really an awful lot to say or do on COVID. You're just going, "Oh yes, I agree with the measures that the government are taking. Oh, I'd like the government to be more cautious about what they're going to do in this regards to public health. Maybe the lockdown. Maybe the nothing." No, it was only really when Partygate came along that I think Starmer sort of started to morph into an actual character. Now, don't get me wrong, he's now the Prime Minister, and I don't feel he's an especially compelling character even at this point. But at that point, it was, Keir Starmer, he follows the rules. He follows the rules. Boris Johnson does not follow the rules. Keir Starmer will be a stickler for the rules. He's a man with good, upright, moral convictions. He did his old lawyery thing, started doing the whole, I'm going to prosecute you, Boris Johnson, for your infraction of the rules and prove it in a court of law or at the very least the Commons chamber. So it was really only that opportunity, I think sort of like 2021, 22. Is that round about when it was? 2022. Where because of we'd had compounded Tory failures at that point, but Partygate and then the immediate advent of Liz Truss and just what a complete shit show that was. And then Sunak came in, everything kind of calmed and smoothed down for the remainder of the Parliament. But in a way, the die had already been cast at that point. I think a lot of people that weren't going to vote Tory in the election just gone had decided it at that point because they went, "Oh well, just the absolute state of things, just what's gone on recently." Sunak try as he might, and I don't think Sunak was the worst prime minister we've had since 2010. But he couldn't, you just can't bail out enough water to right that sinking ship. So Starmer and Labour, they had a moment where the Tories screwed it up for themselves, and they took advantage of that moment and they made it into power. That is a very long-winded way of me getting around to saying, and now the shoe is on the other foot. With Kemi Badenoch, she has two tasks in a way. First of all, she needs to try to show to the public that the Tories are once again a competent, governing, election-winning machine, like they have been known to be in the past. And they're not going to get too sidetracked down weird avenues and alleys, which most of the public don't care about. That might be interesting where they go with that, because it's a tricky one for them. On the one hand, you've got your middle of the road voters. You've got your people that could be voting Labour or Lib Dem instead of the Tories. There's going to be a particular kind of message that appeals to them. Then you've got your Reform voters. Reform has come along. It's doing better for itself now than UKIP ever did a decade ago. And in order to sort of satiate the voters that might be drifting to Reform, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, the Tories need to go more right-wing. They need to be the real McCoy. They need to out-reform. You need to out-Farage. And then the natural problem then is, but if you go too far one way, you'll alienate that lot, and vice versa. So it's going to be a tricky task in terms of triangulation in that sense. And we've got to see what she's made of as well. We need to see, how good she is at the messaging, how well she is at responding to things in the news cycle, whether she puts together a good team of shadow ministers and the rest. But she's got a while to sit in. We're only 3-4 months into this parliament. You've got 4.5 years. One expects to go. We could. It's so early to try and say how things are going to be for Kemi Badenoch in opposition, even if we talk about the big majority Labour's got, because yes, it's a big majority, but it's based off of something of a lesser advantage when it comes to the actual popular support and what the polls said when the election actually happened, what the results were when the election actually happened. Sorry. So, yes, it looks like a big mountain to climb, but actually this is probably the electorate seems to be getting more volatile rather than less volatile as time has gone on, or at least from what I've noticed in my adult life, of people being willing to vote for whoever's dangled in front of them, and they go, yeah, you know what, I'll give these guys a try this time. Why not? So you never know what could happen. The ideal thing for Kemi Badenoch and the Conservatives really is for Labour to fail. Is for them to fail in their goals to, rebuild the country and turn the page and all the rest of it. You need to have a Labour government that's bogged down in unpopularity. And yes, they've got the unpopularity going for them at the moment, but likewise, early days for her, it's early days for them too. But you need a situation where, as you're approaching the election, you need the public to, by and large, feel that actually, having voted Labour, not an awful lot has changed. It doesn't feel like an awful lot is going to change. It just seems like more of the same. And then those particular voters that last time round either switched somewhere else and didn't vote for the Tories, or just stayed home and didn't vote for the Tories, this time round they go, you know what, look, this Labour lot they've got in, they've been an absolute nothing. But Kemi Badenoch in opposition here, she seems like she's got her head screwed on. Maybe we'll give the Tories another shot this time round. That's the situation that she needs lined up for herself. I'm not making any predictions at the moment about the next general election, not least because we've got a US election coming tomorrow, and that should be the focus of the thing I'm telling you that I don't have any predictions for instead. I feel like I waffled a little bit there, guys. I do apologize, but we got the core themes out at the very least, didn't we? We discussed what that Kemi Badenoch needs to do as opposition leader. She needs to be competent, and she needs Labour to fail. Those are the two big ones, really. And if she's lucky, Nigel Farage gets hit by a bus or something. Joey says, "Hey Swiss, who do you think will win the US election?" What a question. Most importantly, I'm catching up with your Nuzlocke halfway through episode 4. Well, I'm glad you're catching up with the Nuzlocke, and assuming you're enjoying it, Joey, I'll have another one of those. I'd like to say probably this week, I'm sure. Who do I think will win the US election? I don't know. I do not have a strong feeling one way or the other who's going to win. Sometimes I think Harris, sometimes I think Trump. That's really my honest answer for you. As I've said before, back when it was Biden, I felt very strongly it'd be Trump. When Harris entered the race, I felt very strongly it'd be Harris. As we've approached the election, I feel very uncertain, and I don't have that many clear indicators. I'm not saying that opinion polls are a gospel. I never have, and I've never said, because the polls are this, it therefore means it will be this, so this exact digit or whatever. But polls you can use as a bit of a vibe check. It's like your Neo in the Matrix. If you can look at them, but instead of seeing the polls, you're seeing like the green code flying down from the walls or whatever, and you can actually see what's behind it, then it can be useful for you if you've got the right kind of set of adjustments to make in your head, where you go, okay, this is saying that, but I know about this, so maybe this will end up happening, blah blah blah. US election, I do not have enough of a feeling about it. If I really had to be pushed, if you really had to push me to lean one way or the other, I will lean Trump, because I think there's more of a chance that Trump's support is being underreported than the equivalent chance for Harris. That's about as good as we're going to get there. My real answer is I don't know. I'm coming into this just as clueless as the next person, to be honest. Heath Starmer says Jenrick is a slippery character. Badenoch has been consistent in her lunacy. That I love that analysis there. That's wonderful. Heath Starmer says I don't think Labour have anything to fear. 50% says 50% chance she's not leader by the next GE. Interesting. She'll probably we're doing a special Heath Starmer only comment section today, guys. She'll probably be chucked out by her own party after 2 years and cleverly replaces her unopposed. Cameron Hickman says, "Have you been bad knocked out?" Haha. And Bubble says, "Israel will win the US election." Haha. Well, there we go. What a quality comment section we've got today, guys. So I'll tell you what. I'll ask you this. I'll ask you this before I go. This was just a quick hello before the big marathon stream tomorrow. What are you guys expecting in the US election? Do any of you have particularly strong feelings one way or the other for Harris or for Trump, who you think's going to win? Or are you very much like me, feeling the splinters of sitting so hard on the fence? Yeah. I mean, I've gone as far and said, okay, if you're going to put a gun to my head and make me choose, I'm going to say Trump, because I feel like Trump winning could be the unexpected, but not that unexpected thing. Yeah. No idea really. Heath Starmer says Harris wins and won't be as close as the polls suggest. See, I like this. We're getting some difference of opinion here. We're going to get to come back with some bragging rights in a few days' time. Okay, Heath Starmer says Harris wins and it won't be as close as the polls suggest. So Harris wins it by a much more healthy amount. Okay. Frank says, in my opinion, Trump will win this election only by winning Pennsylvania by less than a point. Oh, I love that. That's a very specific prediction, and Pennsylvania is one of those that I've kept looking at, and I've gone, oh, that's a pretty pivotal state. And in my mind, I've kind of been seeing it. No, probably Harris for that one, but then again, margin of error. Trump comes along and just about clinches it. I'm not saying it's not possible. I don't know what's possible in this election or not. Bubble says, I don't care as an ethno-nationalist. Maybe Kamala would be better. Joey says, I worry that with a Trump win, Ukraine loses, and so does NATO, along with Western US-led world order, also Taiwan and every other dictator-threatened country. Frank says, evening Swiss, by the way. Not a landslide, but a decent victory. And Joey says, put me at ease by all means, but that's what I fear. Put you at ease? I'm not here to put you at ease. I don't have the qualifications nor the information to be able to put you at ease, Joey. I suppose the only thing I can put you at ease by saying is that if the US chooses to elect a leader that departs from the world stage in the traditional role that we've been used to the US playing, we have our own independently elected democratic leaders of our own countries, and one would like to imagine, at the very least, that if they decide, okay, the US aren't the ones to turn to anymore, that they step up. They step up and they go, okay, it's going to have to be us now. Ukraine, it's basically going to have to be like the UK and the EU and other NATO chums that club together and try and sort that out. That's me saying what needs to happen, by the way, not me saying what will happen. Harris wins for me. The female votes comes out, says Joey. Based Heath Starmer will be retired as he's busy leading the country. All right, then. Well, I'll say thank you very much for all of that then, guys. So I will see you tomorrow. Yeah, I'm not going to say what time I'll start streaming it, because honestly, I'll probably end up deciding tomorrow. And God knows we'll probably be up a very long time waiting for results and all the rest of it. So I'll see you when I see you, guys. If you're up late tomorrow night, you'll know where to find me. At the very least, we'll say that much. All right then, take care. Oh yeah, you too, Heath Starmer. There we are. Catch you all later on.